Okay, thanks for coming. We're here today because at this point the Board of Supervisors has failed an important test. Yes, in this day of accountability, they have failed. The Loudoun County School Board unanimously approved a budget based on the needs of our students and employees in a vastly growing school system. The Board of Supervisors turned its back and chose to ignore not only the unanimous needs of the school board, but also the views of the Loudoun community as a whole. I stand in front of you today with the following members of the Loudoun community calling for an end to underfunding our schools. Lorraine Hightower, parent and president of the Mountain View PTA. Jeff Dunn, Loudoun County taxpayer, parent and LCPS teacher. And Bruce Smart, former Undersecretary of Commerce under Ronald Reagan, Upperville resident and business owner. Hundreds of Loudoun County citizens, including students, parents, business leaders, concerned residents and voters, stood before the Board of Supervisors and communicated the belief that our students deserve the best in education. We have urged them to correct past underfunding to the tune of $70.1 million and to invest in our students and those who teach them. Because of underfunding, class sizes are increasing. At 24.7 elementary students per class average, Loudoun County now has the highest class average in Northern Virginia. Employee salaries are not competitive with surrounding districts, especially those that we compete with in hiring the best and brightest new teachers. Technology upgrades have been delayed. Many at-risk students still don't have access to full-day kindergarten. Citizens in Loudoun County believe that public schools, and they strongly believe in increased spending. The Board of Supervisors needs to get serious and close the gap between the rhetoric needs about excellence in education and the actual funding of the resources that our schools need to remain a great school system. Today, members of our community have gathered together to call on the Board of Supervisors to make the right choice and invest in our schools. I'd like to introduce our first member from the community, Mrs. Lorraine Hightower.
Good afternoon. My name is Lorraine Hightower, and I'm a PTA president at Mountain View Elementary in Percival, the Blue Ridge District. In February of 2014, our association of 327 members passed a resolution to fully fund the school board budget. A fully funded school budget means that our school system can start to fix the less than competitive salary scale. Competitive compensation and benefits for our school staff is important because every year we are losing experienced teaching professionals. I have been personal witness to this as my son's first grade teacher retired at the end of the school year. In second grade, his teacher, who had lots of energy and many more possible years of instruction, also retired. That August, 2 weeks before the start of school, our principal decided to leave the administration only to return to a teaching career in a neighboring community in West Virginia. Appropriately compensated staff does not deserve our schools in such numbers. Loudoun County Public Schools is ranked 4th out of 5 for professionals with a Bachelor of Science and Master's degree. This is unacceptable. Fairfax County pays as much as $6,000 to $7,000 more for the same level of experience. Due to Loudoun County's public school growth, we have no problem adding brick and mortar buildings, all the while letting our most important resource, our experienced teaching professionals, drift to work in adjacent counties. Dr. Hattrick said that good people cost money. The Board of Supervisors needs to realize that there is a real cost to retaining experienced staff. We need to correct the SAG for experienced staff and benefits for all of our employees before our children pay the price. 56% of our classrooms at Mountain View Elementary exceed 23 students. A fully funded school budget is important to me and my association because it means that we will be able to reduce the class size to 23 students per classroom. This problem is not just happening at our school. Excuse me. Reducing class size is important because having more than 24 students in your classroom is not only stressful for the teacher, but it is ineffective for the students. As a parent, I can't imagine hosting a play date for 10 to 15 children, nonetheless properly instructing 24 students. I'm calling on the Board of Supervisors to do the right thing, to fully fund the school board's budget. As they have heard at the recent public hearings, this matters to our PTA, to approximately 10 PTAs in Loudoun County who spoke at the public hearings and passed similar resolutions, as well as to our community as a whole. Thank you, and next I would like to introduce Jeff Dunn with Woodgrove High School.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Jeff Dunn. I'm not only a teacher at Woodgrove High School in Percival, but I am also a parent of two elementary school daughters, a second and a fifth grader at Lowe's Island Elementary in the Algonquian District. When I first moved from Ohio and started teaching in Loudoun County in 1998, I was amazed at the high level of community support for its schools. I was amazed at its ability to provide small class sizes and to keep pace with the technological advances that started in that decade. And now I'm even more amazed to see the lack of support that I had come to expect when I first moved into the county. I started teaching in Loudoun County when there were only 5 middle schools and 5 high schools. And now there are 14 middle schools, and next year we'll have 14 high schools. I had the opportunity to teach on the charter staffs of 2 middle schools, Harper Park and Mercer Middle School. I coached in the first years of Stonebridge High School and Heritage High School, and I joined Woodgrove High School in its second year. So I've been around, I've seen the change. I know what kind of support there used to be in the county. And in the last few years with this current board of supervisors, I'm fearful for the turns against a public education that they've taken. These past few years, with the lack of funding and investments in public education, it's been a challenge for the system, but it's been a challenge for me as well in my classroom. I fear that Loudoun is digging itself in a hole that it cannot climb out of. Where 3 years ago, the average size of my AP US history classes at Woodgrove was 25 students, the next year I found classes of 35 and 36. The rooms were barely big enough to hold all of the desks for the students in that room. The large class sizes made it more difficult to tailor instruction to individual needs and much more difficult to conduct classroom discussions in which every student had an opportunity to be heard, to ask a question, to share a story. Higher class sizes also made for a higher volume of essays to grade, a very time-intensive process, I can assure you. The failure to invest in technology in recent years has also impacted my teaching. In fact, our technological infrastructure is broken, outdated, and not able to meet the demands of today's learner. I could describe numerous ways in which the chronic streaming issues I experience on an almost daily basis negatively affects my classroom. But what is most troubling about our failure to invest in technology is that I'm not able to maximize my students' ability to use technology as a tool in the classroom. It is not that they are unable to use them because of lack of personal devices or phones or iPads. It's just that there's a lack of bandwidth in our school and a lack of infrastructure to support it. The only way to stop the trend of rapidly increasing class sizes and an increasingly outdated technology system is to increase the tax rate to a point where we can properly fund this school board's budget. And I urge the Board of Supervisors to reassess their priorities to ensure that this happens. And I'd now like to introduce Mr. Bruce Smart.
Thank you. I'm going to take us a little bit beyond Loudoun County, because I believe strongly that wealthy counties like this need to lead the U.S. back to a position of preeminence in K-12 education in the world. The Board of Supervisors, as they consider this, must look at all the facts that apply. These facts are as follows. American K-12 education is now mediocre. It has fallen from the top and is well behind China, Japan, Finland, and even Canada. Second, today's school children are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. In 2050, the kids that are now in school here are going to be in their late 40s and 50s, age-wise, and they are going to be the people that are going to determine the fate of our country in that year. Right now, 13% of our population is like I am, over 65. And 60% of our population is between 20 and 65, the working ages. In 2050, 20% will be over 65. And there will be 10% fewer workers, percentage proportionally, in the world, which means the working age people who have to support those older folks will be down by 5%, by 20%, while the people who are being served will be up by half. Finally, we have to consider the makeup of our people in our citizenry. Right now, we have roughly considerable majority of white people of European extraction. But in 2050, 53% of Americans will be either Hispanic, Asian, or African American, groups that now are less prepared for school in most cases than traditionally the white Europeans were. Those are all things that the board should pay attention to my knowledge, has not considered. We are not educating for tomorrow, we're educating for 30, 40 years from now. And what we do in these schools will determine the future of our country. We have to be aggressive in educating all children, whether they come from single homes, poverty, as well as those who are below. To succeed, we're going to need pre-K classes. That's a whole other one on top of K-12, which is 13 classes. Now we need a whole another bunch of classes. We need longer school days, we need longer school years, all of which our competitors now have. We will need the very best teachers, which means we have to pay them and we have to recruit them, competing, believe it or not, with investment bankers. I have a granddaughter who's a teacher and a granddaughter who's an investment banker, and I can tell you their salaries are different. All that's going to cost money. But if we don't fund the programs that are put forth by our professional educators, America will continue to fall behind. Tax-adverse supervisors who deny our kids the education they deserve will be hammering nails into the coffin of American excellence. I believe most thinking Loudoners are willing to pay the added taxes, but I wonder if our supervisors have the guts to raise them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. In previous years, the Board of Supervisors stated that they did not hear from the public in support of the school budget. Just recently, I presented a petition with over 2,800 signatures in support of fully funding the LCPS budget. At open input sessions, the public spoke at an incredible 8-to-1 margin in support of fully funding. Loudoun supervisors have admitted that they have heard from more voters in support of fully funding than for cutting it. So what's going on? Is the Board of Supervisors listening to their constituents? Apparently not. It appears that supervisors are putting their campaign pledges of tax cuts before the needs of our students and a growing school system, even as their constituents continue to flood their emails with support for full funding. At the start of the budget process, one supervisor stated, "The preliminary budget numbers are a starting point and are subject to change. Where has this change occurred? Supervisor Higgins from Catoctin stated after the straw vote on Thursday night, "This motion brings us within the guidelines that we set forth at the beginning of this process. We have done what we said we were going to do, and this makes it happen." If the Board of Supervisors decided at the beginning of this budget process what the course of action was going to be, I ask you, why then did they have public input sessions? By doing this, the supervisors have told the public that their opinions do not count. It is apparent that the Board of Supervisors is not interested in the will of its constituents. It is clear that the community wants the Board of Supervisors to invest in public education and fully fund our schools. The path to prosperity for Loudoun County starts in its classrooms. The public has turned out at public meetings. They have spoken on the issue, have emailed their supervisors in support of fully funding. Why have their voices been ignored? The right choice is clear. Stop underfunding and invest in our schools. This concludes our press conference. I will be happy to take any of your questions. Thank you.